There once was a quiet little village nestled beside a slow, winding river. The houses there were built of stone, with moss growing soft and green between the cracks. Every evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, the villagers would place small lanterns along the river bank. Their warm, golden light would ripple across the water, guiding fishermen home and making the whole place look as though stars had settled on the earth. In this village lived an old man named Corvin, who was known for his steady hands and patient heart. He carved little wooden birds and placed them on windowsills for the children to find. He often sat by the river with a steaming cup of chamomile tea, watching the lanterns flicker. The river seemed to carry whispers on its surface, gentle songs that no one could quite remember but everyone felt calmed by. On one particularly still evening, Corvin noticed something unusual. Among the lanterns floating downstream, there was one that burned brighter than the rest. Its flame glowed with a steady, golden warmth, as if it had been lit by the sun itself. Corvin leaned closer, narrowing his eyes, and thought he could almost see shapes within the light. A distant cottage, a tree heavy with blossoms, and the faint outline of a path leading somewhere unknown. He smiled softly, not alarmed, not hurried. Instead, he felt a quiet invitation stir in his chest. Perhaps, he thought, this lantern has a story to tell. And so began a journey that would unfold not in leaps and shouts, but in steps as gentle as a lullaby, leading Corvin, and anyone who cared to listen, into a world of quiet wonders. The next morning, Corvin walked along the riverbank with his walking stick tapping gently against the stones. The lantern he had noticed the night before was nowhere to be seen. It must have floated farther downstream, but the memory of its glow lingered in his heart. As he passed the great willow tree that leaned over the river, its long branches trailing the surface like fingers, he heard a faint rustling. The willow always whispered in the wind, but this time the sound carried a shape, a murmur that almost formed words. Follow, it seemed to sigh, as the leaves brushed together. Corvin paused, smiling at himself for entertaining the thought. But then again, hadn't the lantern been brighter than any he had ever seen? The old man wasn't in a hurry. His days were filled with slow rhythms, and he found comfort in the thought that perhaps the world had a secret still left for him to find. Later that day, as the sun laid soft light across the hills, Corvin wandered beyond the edge of the village. There, tucked between the tall grass, he found a line of smooth, round pebbles. They were too neatly placed to be an accident, forming a faint trail that curved toward the forest. He bent down, picked up one of the stones, and noticed it shimmered faintly in his hand, not with magic exactly, but with a certain rightness, like something meant to be touched. He put it back carefully and followed the line as it slipped into the trees. The forest was not frightening. It smelled of pine and earth, and birds hopped along the branches above. The deeper he went, the quieter the air became, as though even the animals paused to listen. By the time Corvin reached a clearing, the sun was beginning to lower, staining the sky with amber and rose. There, sitting in the middle of the path, was a small fox with fur the color of rusted copper. Its eyes were bright and curious, but it didn't run when Corvin approached. The fox tilted its head and flicked its tail once, then trotted forward a few paces. It looked back at him expectantly, as if to say, "Are you coming?" Corvin chuckled softly. "So you're the guide today, are you?" he murmured. The fox blinked, turned, and padded deeper into the forest. And so, with the rhythm of his cane tapping against roots and stones, Corvin followed the fox down the hidden path, lantern lights still glowing in his memory. The trail wound gently downward until they reached a quiet glade. At its center stood a stone well, half covered in ivy. Its stones were old but sturdy, the kind that suggested generations had once gathered there to draw water, though now it seemed long forgotten. The fox sat by the well, its ears twitching. Corvin leaned on his stick and peered inside. Instead of darkness, he saw a faint glimmer, like starlight scattered across the surface of water. When he dropped a pebble into the well, it didn't make a splash. Instead, the stone vanished in silence, swallowed by the glow. The fox yipped softly, as though urging him not to be afraid. Corvin felt no fear, only wonder. The well seemed to hum, as though it too carried a whisper, not all paths lead home, but all paths lead onward. The forest grew dim, and Corvin decided to rest before continuing. He unpacked his small satchel and lit a tiny kettle over a handful of dry twigs. The fox curled up nearby, watching him with calm, unblinking eyes. He brewed tea, the scent of chamomile filling the air. As he sipped, the stars pricked through the sky above the treetops, one by one. The forest, which might have felt lonely to another, felt to Corvin like a quiet companion. "You and I," he said to the fox, "seem to have stumbled into something curious. But perhaps that's all life ever is, one curious step after another." The fox stretched, lay its head on its paws, and seemed to agree. The old man closed his eyes for a while, listening to the night settle around them like a blanket. When Corvin awoke, the kettle was cool and the forest hushed. The fox was still there, curled like a warm ember, its ears flicking at small night noises. He stretched his arms, the stiffness of age softened by sleep, and listened. At first, he thought it was only the breeze moving through the branches. But no, the sound carried a tune. A wordless melody drifted through the trees, so faint that one might doubt it existed at all. Yet the more Corvin listened, the more he recognized its calm rhythm, like the lullabies his mother once sang to him by the fire. The fox rose and pricked its ears, tail swaying gently. It looked toward the east, where the first silver blush of dawn was painting the horizon. The song came from that way. Corvin finished the last sip of tea left in his cup, tucked his satchel under his arm, and gave a nod. "Then east it is." As they walked, the song grew clearer. The path curved until it met an old stone bridge crossing a brook. The bridge was sturdy, though moss covered its sides, and tiny flowers had rooted in the cracks. Water rushed softly beneath, carrying fallen petals downstream. Standing at the center of the bridge was a figure, not threatening, but tall and cloaked in pale green fabric that swayed like leaves. Their face was hidden by a hood, but their hands were bare and delicate, resting lightly on the railing. When Corvin approached, the figure lifted their head. The song stopped, as if swallowed by silence, and a voice like flowing water greeted him. "Traveler, you follow the lantern's path." Corvin bowed his head politely. "If that's what this is, then yes. Though I confess I don't yet know where it leads." The cloaked figure smiled faintly. "Few do. Yet still you walk." The figure reached into their cloak and drew out a small bundle wrapped in cloth. They held it out with both hands. "Take this," they said. Inside was a round loaf of bread, warm despite the morning chill. The smell was rich, nutty, and sweet, like it had just come from an oven. Corvin felt his stomach stir. He hadn't eaten since the evening before. He thanked the figure, who only inclined their head and turned back to the brook. Without another word, they hummed softly, and the song resumed, blending again with the sound of water. Corvin tore a piece of the bread, soft and steaming, and shared it with the fox. The little creature accepted without hesitation, licking crumbs from its whiskers. Together, they ate as the sun climbed higher, golden light spilling across the bridge. Past the bridge, the path wound deeper into a grove where strange flowers grew. They hung from the branches like tiny silver bells, each swaying gently though no wind stirred. When Corvin brushed one with his hand, it chimed, a soft, sweet note that lingered in the air. The fox padded ahead, its paws barely disturbing the moss, and every step seemed to make the flowers ring, as though welcoming them. The sound was delicate, neither loud nor startling, just a gentle chorus like distant church bells on a Sunday morning. Corvin walked slower here, savoring each note, and thought of the years behind him, days of work, nights of quiet, the laughter of neighbors long gone. The bells seemed to echo not just in his ears but in his heart, calling forth memories without sorrow. "This is a place of remembering," he whispered, and the bells agreed. At the far end of the grove stood a large, flat stone, smooth and pale as if polished by countless hands. The fox leapt onto it, and sat proudly, tail curled around its paws. Corvin touched the stone and found it warm despite the shade. The moment he sat, a calmness heavier than sleep settled over him. His breath slowed, his shoulders softened. He realized the stone was meant for resting travelers like himself, a gift from the forest. He lay back and watched the branches swing above, the bellflowers tinkling softly. The fox nestled beside him, and for a while, time loosened its grip. He felt no need to rise, no need to ask what lay beyond. And in that moment, he understood, the journey was not about haste. It was about listening, resting, and letting the lantern's light guide in its own unhurried way. When Corvin woke from his rest, the forest was alive with a fresh kind of brightness. Sunlight filtered down through the bellflowers, setting them glowing like tiny lanterns. The fox leapt from the stone and padded ahead, pausing to make sure he followed. Soon they came upon a stream unlike any he had seen before. The water was not clear, nor murky, but silver, like liquid moonlight flowing in daylight. Pebbles beneath its surface shimmered as though dusted with frost. Corvin knelt to cup some in his palm, but when he lifted it, the water slipped through his fingers without wetting them. It left behind a faint coolness, almost like the hush of a lullaby against his skin. "This stream carries dreams," Corvin thought aloud. "No wonder it refuses to be held." The fox barked softly, as though agreeing, and together they followed the stream's bend deeper into the woods. The stream widened until it formed a pool. At its edge rested a small wooden dock, worn but sturdy. An old boat bobbed gently there, tethered by a frayed rope. Sitting at the dock was a boatman, his beard long and white as river foam. He wore a hat pulled low and hummed a slow, steady tune while whittling a piece of driftwood into shape. "Good morning," Corvin said. The boatman raised his head, eyes crinkling like folded parchment. "And a good morning to you. The stream doesn't carry many these days." Corvin explained his path, the lantern, the fox, the bridge, the bells. The boatman listened, nodding. When Corvin finished, the old man gestured toward the boat. "Then you'll want to cross. This stream runs between what is remembered and what is yet to come." The fox hopped lightly into the boat and sat at the bow. Corvin climbed in more carefully, setting his cane against the side. The boatman untied the rope and pushed them off with a steady hand. The boat glided without sound, carried by the silver current. Around them, the water rippled with shifting images: a child running across a meadow, a woman stirring a pot by a hearth, a boy carving a wooden bird. Corvin recognized these. They were his own memories, softened by time, glowing like lanterns under the surface. He watched without ache, only warmth, as though the stream preserved the sweetness without the sorrow. The boatman rowed with slow strokes, his oar dipping into dream water, guiding them across. "The stream only shows what has mattered," he said. "It leaves behind what does not." The boat touched the opposite bank, where tall pines stood in hushed ranks, their needles catching the breeze in a low, soothing hum. The boatman steadied Corvin as he stepped out. "Thank you," Corvin said. The boatman tipped his hat. "No thanks needed. All streams must be crossed in time." He pushed away and drifted back into silver light, his song fading with the ripples. Corvin stood on the pine shore, breathing the resin-scented air. The fox pressed against his leg briefly, as if to say, "You are not alone." Together they followed a winding trail that threaded between the trunks, leading them deeper into the hush of the pines. At last, the trees opened onto a small clearing where a cottage sat nestled like a secret. Its walls were timber, its roof mossy, and smoke curled from a crooked chimney. A wooden chair rested on the porch, and a lantern hung by the door, glowing with the same gentle warmth Corvin had seen on the river. He approached slowly, heart lifting with a quiet sense of belonging. The door creaked open before he could knock, and a woman with hair the color of autumn leaves stepped out. Her eyes were kind and knowing. "You've come far," she said softly, as though she'd been expecting him. Corvin smiled, leaning on his cane. "I've only followed the light." The fox wagged its tail, and for the first time, Corvin felt certain that the lantern's glow was not just guiding him. It was welcoming him home to something he had not yet understood. The woman led Corvin inside the pine cottage. The air was warm and fragrant with herbs that hung from beams above the hearth. A fire crackled softly, its flames dancing like old friends. On the table sat a pot of stew, steaming gently, and a row of cups ready to be filled. "Rest," she said, guiding him to a chair cushioned with wool. "The path is long, and no one walks it without pausing here." Corvin eased into the chair, his bones sighing in relief. The fox curled near the fire, paws tucked beneath its chest. The woman ladled stew into a wooden bowl and placed it before him. It tasted of carrots, thyme, and comfort itself. "You know the lantern," she said after a moment, her voice low. "I saw it on the river," Corvin replied. "It seemed brighter than all the rest." She nodded. "It is not just a lantern. It is a door." As the fire crackled, the woman told him the tale. Long ago, the villagers by the river placed lanterns in the water not only to light the night but to carry wishes downstream. Most faded with the current, their flames flickering out before dawn. But every so often, a lantern burned brighter. These rare flames did not simply drift, they called to someone whose heart was ready. The lantern would show paths unseen, gathering memories and whispers, until at last it led the wanderer to where they most needed to be. "It does not matter whether the path leads forward or back," she said, her eyes on the flames. "What matters is that it leads you to truth, and truth always rests gently." Corvin listened, his hands warming around his bowl, and felt as though the story was less about the past and more about his own journey unfolding. That night, Corvin stayed in the cottage. The woman gave him a quilt stitched with stars, its fabric soft and faintly scented with lavender. He lay by the fire, the fox at his feet, while outside the wind sang low through the pines. Through the small window, he could see the forest lit with tiny glimmers. Lanterns, dozens of them, drifted between the trees, their flames swaying but never going out. They did not burn wood or oil, but something softer, like memory itself. He watched them hover in silence, each one carrying its own quiet story. The sight filled him with such peace that sleep came easily, and he dreamed of walking among lanterns that bowed as he passed, whispering like friends he had known long ago. When dawn broke, the woman handed him a satchel filled with bread, dried fruit, and a flask of tea. "The lantern waits," she said simply. "Follow, and you will find what you seek, even if you do not yet know what it is." The fox trotted ahead, bright-eyed and eager. Corvin bowed his thanks, then stepped out into the morning air. The pines swayed gently as though bidding him farewell, and the lantern by the door flickered once before returning to its steady glow. The path beyond the cottage curved eastward, where the trees grew taller and shadows deeper. Yet Corvin felt no unease. He carried with him the warmth of stew, the comfort of fire, and the certainty that every step was part of something quietly profound. By midday, the forest thinned, and he came upon a great stone arch rising from the earth as though the land itself had shaped it. Ivy climbed its pillars, and carved into the stone were faint symbols, spirals, suns, rivers, that seemed older than any village he had known. The fox walked through first, tail brushing the air. Corvin followed, cane tapping against the stone floor beneath the arch. As he passed under, a hush fell over everything. The wind stopped, the birds paused, even his own footsteps seemed quieter. Beyond the arch, the path stretched forward into a place that felt different, not unfriendly but somehow more awake. The air shimmered faintly, and Corvin realized he had crossed from one chapter of his journey into another. Beyond the arch, the forest opened into a broad meadow. Wild grasses swayed in golden waves, and countless small birds perched along the stalks. Yet, unlike most birds, they did not sing. Instead, their wings fluttered in soft rhythm, and the hush of their movement filled the air with a kind of music without notes. Corvin walked slowly, canes sinking into the soft earth, marveling at the stillness. The fox darted ahead, chasing shadows but never disturbing the birds. Even as it bounded through the grass, they remained calm, as if this meadow was bound by a different sort of rule, one of peace. He paused to watch a single feather drift down, spiraling gently, and when it landed on his palm, he felt a calmness spread through him as steady as sleep. This place teaches silence, he thought, and for once, he had no wish to speak at all. At the far end of the meadow stood a wooden gate, half sunken into the earth. Its planks were old but strong, bound by iron hinges that hadn't rusted despite their age. A small sign hung crookedly from one side, carved with words faded almost beyond reading. Corvin brushed moss away until he could make them out. Pass gently, leave gently. He smiled at the wisdom in those 4 words and pushed the gate open. It creaked softly, not in protest but like a voice waking from sleep. The fox slipped through first, pausing to wait on the other side. When Corvin followed, the gate closed behind him without touch, swinging shut with a quiet click, as if marking that this chapter was complete, yet leaving him free to move forward. The path wound down into a shallow valley where a brook trickled between stones. Unlike the silver stream before, this water was clear and cool, catching the sunlight in 1,000 little sparkles. But what made it strange was the sound, not the usual murmur of water, but words, tiny fragments of stories carried in the flow. As Corvin leaned closer, he caught phrases drifting past, a child's laughter, a promise kept, the taste of ripe apples. The fox lapped at the brook, unbothered, but Corvin listened for a long while. The stories were not his alone, they belonged to many lives, flowing together in harmony. He dipped his fingers in, and for a moment, a memory surfaced, his younger self carving his very first wooden bird, the pride that filled him, and the smile of a neighbor child who received it. The brook whispered, "Every story joins the river of all stories." Farther along the valley, Corvin came upon a tree unlike any other. Its branches stretched wide and heavy, and from every bough hung glowing lanterns of all shapes and sizes. Some were small and plain, others ornate and shimmering with color. They swayed in the breeze, casting dapples of light across the grass. The fox sat beneath the tree, gazing up as though it, too, felt the weight of the sight. Corvin placed his hand on the trunk, which pulsed faintly, like the beat of a heart. He understood then, each lantern carried not just light, but a journey, like his own. Some lanterns shone brightly, some flickered, but all belonged. And among them, near the center, hung one lantern that glowed with the same golden warmth he had first seen by the river. His lantern. The lantern swayed gently as Corvin reached up. His fingers brushed the warm glass, and a quiet voice stirred within him, not spoken aloud, but blooming like thought. The path can end here, if you wish. Rest beneath the lantern tree, where all journeys are gathered. Or step forward, and see what lies beyond the farthest flame. Corvin's hand lingered on the lantern. Beneath him, the fox pawed the earth lightly, as though sensing his hesitation. He smiled softly. "Not yet," he murmured. "I think there are still steps left in me." The lantern glowed brighter, pulsing with gentle approval. And so, he left it swaying among its companions, carrying its light within him instead of in his hand. With the fox at his side, Corvin stepped onward, deeper into the quiet mystery of the lantern's path. The path rose steadily until the forest gave way to rolling hills. The grass here was soft and short, rippling in waves with the breeze. When Corvin tapped his cane against the stone, the sound carried farther than it should have, echoing once, then twice, then fading into the sky. Curious, he spoke a word aloud. "Lantern." The hills answered with the same word, drifting back like a memory returning from long ago. The echoes were not empty. They were warm, as if the land itself remembered every voice that had ever spoken here. The fox barked, sharp and playful, and the echoes barked back in cheerful reply. Corvin laughed, the sound rolling over the hills in endless ripples, until even his laughter sounded younger than he felt. It was a place of voices kept safe, like pages in a great book. At the crest of one hill stood a man leaning on a long staff, watching the sky. He wore simple robes, pale as mist, and a crown of woven reeds upon his brow. Around him drifted clouds, not high above, but low, brushing the grass as if grazing sheep. The fox circled him curiously, while Corvin raised a hand in greeting. "You keep watch over the clouds?" Corvin asked. The man smiled. "I guide them. Each carries a dream waiting for rain to release it. If they wander too far, they may forget where to fall." Corvin gazed at the drifting shapes. One looked like a sailboat, another like a house, another like a bird mid-flight. "Then the sky is as full of stories as the rivers," he said. The shepherd nodded. "Everywhere is full of stories, if you walk gently enough to hear them." The shepherd invited Corvin to sit on a smooth rock nearby. From a small jug, he poured a cup of liquid that shimmered pale blue, as though the morning sky itself had been poured into it. "Sky milk," he said, offering it. "It soothes the weary." Corvin sipped carefully. It was cool and faintly sweet, carrying a taste he could not place, something between rainwater and honey. As it slid down his throat, the ache in his joints eased, and his chest felt lighter, as though he had breathed in clear air after a storm. The fox licked a few drops from Corvin's hand, tail swishing contentedly. "Take the sky with you," the shepherd said, handing him a small vial filled with the same shimmering liquid. "A sip when the path grows heavy." Corvin bowed in thanks, tucking it safely into his satchel. As they descended the next hill, a faint tolling reached Corvin's ears. It was not urgent, nor loud, just a single bell, rung slowly, its note carrying across the valley like a heartbeat. The fox pricked its ears and trotted ahead eagerly. Corvin followed, letting the sound guide him. Each toll seemed to draw him onward, steady and sure. At last they saw it, a bell tower standing alone in the field, tall and slender, its stones pale with age. No village surrounded it, no path led to it, yet the bell swung gently as though moved by unseen hands. With each toll, Corvin felt a sense of time stretching, not forward, not backward, but outward, as though the present moment held more space than usual. At the base of the bell tower sat a woman with hair as white as snow and eyes clear as glass. She held an hourglass in her lap, but the sand inside flowed neither up nor down. It hovered, suspended in a dance without falling. "You walk the lantern's path," she said softly, as though she had been waiting for him. Corvin nodded. "And I hear your bell. The bell reminds travelers that time is not a chain," she said. "It is a lantern itself, always burning, always moving, never truly lost." Corvin looked up at the slow-swinging bell, then back to her. "And when the flame goes out?" She smiled gently. "It does not. It only shines elsewhere." The woman at the bell tower lifted the hourglass and placed it into Corvin's hands. The sand shimmered faintly, though it did not fall. "Carry this," she said. "It will not count your minutes, nor measure your days. It will remind you instead that each breath is already whole." Corvin traced the smooth glass. It felt warm, as though it pulsed with his own heartbeat. He tucked it carefully beside the vial of sky milk in his satchel. The fox barked softly, tail wagging, ready to move on. Corvin gave the woman a grateful bow. She nodded in return, eyes shining with a quiet light. As he and the fox walked away, the bell tolled once more, its sound spreading across the hills, steady and calm, like a blessing carried on the wind. The path led into a wide field where the grass itself seemed to glow. Each blade shimmered faintly with its own lantern-like light, casting a soft silver-green radiance across the land. When the breeze passed through, the lights rippled like waves across a sea. Corvin walked slowly, cane brushing the glowing stalks, which chimed faintly at his touch. The fox darted playfully, leaving trails of flickering brightness wherever it stepped. He felt as though he were walking across the sky, surrounded by stars brought low to the earth. For a moment, the field made him forget the weight of his body. His steps felt almost young again. "This path grows lovelier the farther it goes," he murmured. And the field seemed to agree, swaying in harmony with his pace. At the far side of the glowing field, Corvin came upon a circle of stones rising from the ground. Some stood tall, others had fallen, but all were etched with faint symbols similar to those carved on the great arch. The fox sniffed at the stones, then sat in the center of the circle, tail curled neatly around its paws. When Corvin stepped inside, a hush fell over the air. The symbols on the stones glowed faintly, as though remembering the warmth of ancient fires. In the quiet, he heard voices, not clear words, but a harmony, like a chorus singing without language. He closed his eyes and felt the weight of countless travelers who had stood there before him. Their journeys lingered, woven into the stones, not gone but resting. The circle whispered, "You walk among many, though your steps are your own." Beyond the stone circle stretched a bridge, but unlike the old stone one before, this bridge was woven entirely of lanterns. Dozens upon dozens floated in the air, aligned so closely they formed a steady path across a deep ravine. Corvin stepped carefully, came tapping against glowing glass that did not break. Each lantern flickered gently beneath his weight, lighting the way forward. The fox trotted ahead with sure steps, unafraid. Below, the ravine stretched wide and shadowed, but the lanterns held firm. Corvin looked down once and thought he saw faint glimmers rising upward, as though the bridge gathered lost lights from below and carried them upward into the path. By the time he reached the far side, he felt as though every step had been blessed. The bridge ended in a walled garden. Inside, lanterns floated among flowering bushes and low trees, glowing like fireflies. The air was rich with the scent of jasmine and mint. In the center stood a stone bench, carved with patterns of rivers and stars. Corvin sat, setting his satchel beside him. The fox curled on the grass, ears twitching in quiet contentment. Here, the lanterns did not ask him to choose or move forward. They simply drifted, each carrying its own small flame, peaceful and unhurried. Corvin leaned back, watching them hover, and felt a thought settle deep in him. Perhaps the journey itself was the destination, and the lantern's gift was simply this: the gentle unfolding of one step, then another, until every step felt like home. Past the lantern garden, Corvin discovered a small pavilion with paper walls glowing faintly in the moonlight. A kettle steamed on a wooden table, though no one seemed to tend it. He poured himself a cup, and the tea was warm, honeyed, and fragrant, tasting of wild flowers and rain. Each sip eased the ache in his shoulders and loosened the long weariness in his legs. The fox lapped from a shallow bowl left nearby, then stretched out beside him, eyes closing in contentment. Corvin smiled. "Tea always tastes better on a journey," he said softly, though no one answered. The steam curled upward like a blessing, vanishing into the calm night air. Beyond the pavilion lay a meadow filled with flowers that each bore a tiny silver bell at their stem. The breeze stirred them into a gentle song, not loud but steady, like distant chimes. As he walked through, Corvin felt as though the bells were keeping time with his steps. The rhythm was slow, measured, restful. The fox darted between the blossoms, making the bells ring in playful patterns. Their chiming echoed faintly, as though the meadow itself was laughing softly. Corvin thought, if sleep had a sound, perhaps it would be this. At the far end of the meadow stood a figure dressed in simple robes, carrying a staff with 3 bells tied near the top. They bowed as Corvin approached, the bells chiming. "Traveler," the keeper said, "every step you've taken has been marked by sound and silence both. The bells remind us that even endings carry music." They lifted their staff, and for a brief moment Corvin heard every bell he had passed on his journey, bridges, fields, towers, all blending into a quiet harmony. Then the sound faded, leaving behind only his steady heartbeat and the fox's soft panting. The keeper smiled and stepped aside, letting him pass. The path descended toward a stream so calm it mirrored the stars above without a ripple. Stones crossed it like stepping places, and the lantern's reflections glowed faintly beneath the surface. Corvin bent and cupped his hands, drinking the cool water. It tasted not of earth but of silence itself, as if he had swallowed a pause between 2 breaths. The fox splashed gently at the edge, sending small ripples across the mirrored sky. For a while they lingered there, resting in the hush. When Corvin rose, his satchel felt lighter, though he had not removed a thing. At last the path brought him to another arch, its stones weathered but glowing faintly with gold. Unlike the first, this arch leaned forward as though bowing toward him. The fox bounded ahead, waiting on the other side. Corvin paused, resting both hands on his cane, and looked up at the stars framed within the archway. He felt no urgency, only the quiet certainty that beyond lay the closing part of his journey. He stepped forward, and as he passed beneath, a warmth spread across him, not bright, not heavy, just the comfort of a lantern's glow at the end of a long night. Beyond the arch lay a garden filled with fountains and paths lined with soft moss. Water trickled from every fountain, carrying echoes of footsteps long past. Corvin could hear faint laughter, whispers of stories, and even the gentle tapping of a cane, not all his own, but every sound felt familiar. The fox padded softly along the paths, sniffing the moss and curling up beside a small fountain. Corvin knelt and dipped his fingers into the water, which shimmered like spun silver. He realized the garden held memory itself, not trapped, but resting. Each echo was a lantern of its own, glowing softly in the quiet. For a long while he simply sat, letting the garden wrap him in calm. Ahead, a bridge appeared, this one delicate and arching, made entirely of lanterns suspended by threads of golden light. It swayed slightly with the breeze, yet seemed unbreakable. The fox bounded ahead, leaping from lantern to lantern as if the path had been made for such nimbleness. Corvin followed, careful with each step, feeling a gentle warmth from the lights beneath him. From below, he glimpsed shadows of travelers long gone, their lanterns drifting quietly under the bridge. He understood then that each step forward carried both memory and promise, like walking across time itself, one careful pace at a time. At the far side of the lantern bridge stood a figure in soft white robes, holding a small lantern in their hands. They did not speak, yet their presence radiated quiet guidance. Corvin approached, and the figure lifted the lantern slightly. Its glow reflected in Corvin's eyes, warm and steady. The fox brushed against his leg, tail wagging as if encouraging him. The figure gestured toward the path beyond, a simple motion. It said nothing, but Corvin understood. The journey was nearly complete, and the light would continue with him, wherever he went. The path wound gently downward, and the trees thinned to reveal a village tucked into a hollow, surrounded by soft hills. The houses were small, with mossy roofs, and the smoke from chimneys curled into the sky like lazy streams. Lanterns hung from every window and post, glowing softly in the early evening light. The fox bounded ahead to a familiar wooden door, tail wagging. Corvin followed, feeling the weight of the journey ease from his shoulders. Every step was measured, each one echoing the calm he had carried from the river, the forest, and the hills. Here, the world felt whole, steady, and endlessly kind. At last, Corvin returned to the river where his journey had begun. The water flowed gently, carrying lanterns downstream, just as it had on the first evening. Yet now, everything felt richer. He saw the reflections of trees, the sky, and even the path he had walked. He set his satchel down and sat beside the river, the fox curling at his feet. Lanterns flickered across the water, tiny stars guiding him home. He closed his eyes, listening to the soft murmur of the river, the quiet chimes of bellflowers, and the distant toll of a bell. All of it sang together, a lullaby woven from light, sound, and memory. Corvin smiled, feeling the warmth of a journey completed, yet knowing that the glow of the lantern would always be within him. He let sleep come slowly, wrapping around him like a quilt, gentle and unhurried. As night fell, the village beside the river glowed with lanterns, each one floating gently from windows, porches, and small boats. Corvin watched as children ran along the banks, their laughter soft, blending with the flickering lights. The fox trotted beside him, tail sweeping over the cobblestones. Corvin felt a quiet warmth in his chest, the kind that comes from knowing one is exactly where they are meant to be. Each lantern seemed to hum with gentle energy, reflecting memories and small joys. Some lanterns bore messages, others simply glowed in remembrance, and together they created a living mosaic of the village's heart. Corvin settled on a wooden bench, the fox curling at his feet, and let the peaceful glow fill him. He felt as if every step he had taken, from the river to the hills, the stone circles, and the gardens, was now quietly celebrating with him. The river murmured softly, carrying the reflections of lanterns downstream. Corvin leaned on his cane and watched the water glide by. A gentle whisper reached him, like a voice floating on the current. It was not words, exactly, but a sense of continuity, of stories flowing without end, carried forward in light, water, and memory. The fox pawed the water, sending small ripples that caught the lantern light. Corvin chuckled softly. Even the smallest steps leave a trace, he murmured. He closed his eyes and listened. The river, the wind through the trees, the faint chimes from distant flowers, all part of the same lullaby. And in that moment, he felt no need to move. The journey and the resting place were one. Stars appeared above, soft and steady. The village lights twinkled below, mingling with lanterns on the river, reflecting in silver and gold. Corvin stood and stretched gently, feeling the cool night air on his face. The fox yawned and curled against his legs. He knew the journey had been long, but it had not exhausted him. It had carried him, step by step, into calm, wonder, and rest. He touched the small lantern he had carried in his heart from the river. Its glow felt alive, comforting, a reminder of every quiet marvel along the way. For a long while, he simply stood there, breathing, listening, watching. The night was patient, endless, and soft. Finally, Corvin returned to the bench by the river. The lanterns floated past, carrying light and memory onward. The fox curled into a tight ball beside him. He closed his eyes, letting the warmth of the day, the hills, the bridges, the gardens, and every glowing step of the journey settle within him. The river's whisper and the distant bell became one gentle heartbeat. And so, Corvin slept, not hurried, not restless, but held in the quiet, cozy embrace of the lantern's light. The fox twitched in its sleep beside him, and the world outside whispered softly, letting every traveler find their rest in its slow, gentle rhythm. The river flowed. The lanterns glowed. And the night, calm and unbroken, wrapped everything in peace. The next morning, Corvin awoke to a gentle breeze that rustled the leaves of a willow by the river bank. Its branches trailed along the water like long, green curtains. He remembered the whisper he had heard here long ago and leaned closer, tapping a finger against the bark. The willow seemed to sigh, and for a moment, he heard the faintest sound, "Follow me." The fox pricked its ears, tail twitching with excitement. Together they walked along the river bank, following the willow's leaning branches, which guided them to a hidden cove shaded by mossy stones and soft grass. In the still water of the cove, the reflections shimmered like lanterns. Corvin knelt to watch, and the fox pawed at the surface, sending ripples that carried hints of the past, memories of journeys, small joys, and forgotten dreams, all floating gently in the water. Past the cove, the path opened into a wide meadow where tiny, glowing orbs drifted above the grass like fireflies. Each orb pulsed gently, casting a soft light that illuminated the flowers in warm shades of amber and rose. Corvin walked slowly, savoring the glow, while the fox darted and leapt between the orbs. The meadow hummed quietly, a gentle sound that seemed to match the rhythm of his own heartbeat. He realized that each orb contained a memory of joy, no matter how small, children laughing, a kind word from a stranger, a quiet evening by the fire. As he walked, the orbs seemed to acknowledge him, drifting aside or hovering nearby, welcoming his presence. "This is a meadow of quiet happiness," he murmured, letting the soft warmth wash over him. At the far end of the meadow, a bridge appeared, shrouded in a gentle mist. The rails were carved from smooth, pale wood, and lanterns hung from its beams, their glow softened by the fog. Corvin stepped carefully, cane tapping softly against the planks. Beneath, the river was hidden, but he felt its presence, a constant hum of quiet life. The fox padded ahead, moving with confidence even in the mist. Each step Corvin took seemed to stir the fog, revealing fleeting glimpses of shadows, a deer drinking, a bird in flight, leaves drifting lazily downstream. He understood then that the bridge itself was a space between worlds, the known and the unseen, memory and promise, where one could pause and reflect before stepping forward. On the other side of the misty bridge, Corvin found an orchard filled with trees that bent low with fruit. Apples glowed faintly in the dim light, Pears shimmered with a soft, golden hue, and the wind carried their sweet scent. The fox sniffed eagerly among the roots, chasing leaves, while Corvin wandered between the trees, plucking a single apple to taste. It was sweet, crisp, and fragrant, each bite filled with the calm joy of harvest and quiet afternoons. He paused beneath a particularly wide tree, feeling the breeze rustle through the branches. The orchard seemed alive with gentle whispers, offering guidance and reassurance without words. This, too, is a lantern, he thought. A small light in the quiet of the world. The orchard ended at a winding path paved with smooth, round stones. Each stone glimmered faintly in the sunlight, as if the earth itself had placed lanterns beneath their surface. Corvin walked slowly, cane tapping a steady rhythm, feeling each stone beneath his step. The fox bounded ahead, pawing at the stones, creating little sparks of light that danced along the path. Every step carried a sense of care, reflection, and calm. Corvin realized that the path was a reminder. Journeys are measured not in distance, but in attention and presence, in the quiet awareness of each moment passing gently beneath one's feet. He smiled, letting the fox lead him onward, deeper into the world of lanterns, memories, and gentle discovery. The path led into a small grove where trees grew close together, their branches entwined like old friends. The leaves whispered softly, though no wind blew. Corvin felt as if the trees were sharing secrets meant only for those who listened carefully. The fox padded ahead, nose twitching, occasionally pausing to sniff at the roots. Corvin followed, cane tapping gently on the soft earth. Each step carried him deeper into the hollow, and with it, a growing calm. He paused beneath an arch of intertwined branches. The hollow felt like a cathedral of leaves, its ceiling high and green, filtered sunlight shimmering across mossy stones. Here, every whisper seemed like a story, a memory held by the trees, waiting to be shared in quiet. At the center of the hollow was a small stone fountain. Water trickled gently from the mouth of a carved lion, pooling in a basin below. But this was no ordinary fountain. The water reflected images of moments from Corvin's past, a childhood afternoon spent carving wood, the laughter of old friends, small acts of kindness long forgotten. Corvin knelt and cupped the water. The images rippled with his touch, shimmering like fragile glass. The fox lapped at the edge, sending soft ripples across the reflections. He realized that memory was not something lost, but a stream to visit, to drink from, and to carry forward. The fountain whispered, "Rest here, remember," then continued. The hollow opened into a clearing where a grand archway stood, adorned with lanterns of all shapes and sizes. Their glow pulsed softly, lighting the path ahead in gentle waves of color. Corvin approached slowly, cane tapping on smooth stone. The fox scampered ahead, circling the base of the arch with excitement. Each lantern seemed to carry a story, flickering with past journeys and quiet joys. As Corvin stepped beneath the arch, he felt a warmth spread from the glow, wrapping him in a comforting embrace. It was a promise. The path forward was safe, guided by light and gentle memories. Beyond the arch lay a glade where the wind moved through reeds and tall grasses like fingers on a harp. The music was soft, sweet, and endless, carrying both calm and motion. Corvin walked barefoot, feeling the cool earth beneath his feet. The fox danced among the reeds, ears twitching to the melody. Here, he understood that not all guidance was visible. Some paths are marked by sound and feeling, by the pull of quiet music in the air. He closed his eyes for a long moment, letting the glade's song fill him completely, steadying his steps as he prepared to move onward. The glade opened onto a wide river, its surface dotted with lanterns floating like stars. Each lantern carried a soft light, some large, some tiny, drifting slowly with the current. Corvin knelt by the riverbank, cupping a lantern to his chest. Its glow was warm and steady, and he felt the slow pulse of the journey in its light. The fox sniffed nearby, tail brushing against his legs, calm and content. The river whispered of countless travelers, their steps remembered, their lights carried forward. Corvin understood. The lanterns were more than guidance. They were reminders of every gentle choice, every quiet step, every small act of care along the path. He breathed deeply, letting the light fill him, and felt ready for whatever calm adventure the next step might bring. The path curved gently into a grove where every tree bore silver leaves that shimmered in the light. They rustled softly, sending tiny sparks like fireflies into the air. The fox padded ahead, tail swishing through the sparkling light. Corvin's cane tapped softly on the forest floor, each sound amplified by the silver leaves above, echoing gently like soft bells. He walked slowly, letting the grove's quiet shimmer wash over him. The silver leaves seemed to catch fragments of sunlight, moonlight, and memory, holding them just long enough to be admired before drifting away. "This place feels like a lullaby," Corvin whispered, and the grove rustled as if agreeing. The grove opened into a meadow where soft petals floated in the air, drifting like clouds. They glowed faintly, silver and gold, catching the sun's early rays. The fox leapt among the petals, scattering them in gentle arcs. Corvin followed slowly, hand brushing against the petals as they passed, feeling their delicate warmth. Each step seemed to stir small memories of quiet joys, a smile shared, a cup of tea, a favorite song humming in the background. The meadow seemed to gather these fragments, holding them in its soft light. He breathed deeply, letting the gentle petals remind him that beauty and calm could drift into one's life without hurry. The path led to an archway draped in soft mist. Lanterns hung along its curves, glowing warmly, their light softened by the fog. The fox padded under the arch first, pausing to sniff the air, tail flicking in curiosity. Corvin followed, cane tapping steadily. The mist swirled around him like gentle hands, guiding each step. He realized the arch was not just a passage but a pause, a space between one quiet chapter and another. It reminded him to breathe, to let the journey unfold without rush, and to carry its soft light within him. Beyond the mist, Corvin came upon another orchard, this one full of amber-hued apples that glimmered like small lanterns themselves. The tree's branches bowed low, inviting careful hands to reach the fruit. He picked an apple and tasted it. Sweet, gentle, comforting, like a quiet evening by the fire. The fox nosed at the ground, finding small patches of sunlight between the roots, and settled into a nap under a low tree. Corvin sat beside him, savoring the orchard's warm calm. He felt that the orchard held the quiet wisdom of patience. Things ripen in their own time, and every moment of waiting carries its own gentle reward. The orchard ended at a path paved with glimmering stones, each faintly lit from within. Walking across them felt like stepping on small stars. The fox danced ahead, paws sending tiny sparks of light flickering along the stones. Corvin followed slowly, cane tapping with measured care. Each step reminded him that journeys are made not by distance alone, but by awareness, patience, and attention to the small wonders along the way. He breathed deeply, letting the soft glow of the stones and the quiet presence of the fox remind him that he was exactly where he needed to be, fully present in the gentle unfolding of the path. The path led into a small hollow where lanterns floated just above the ground, casting long, dancing shadows on the earth. The fox pranced among them, tail high, chasing the shifting patterns of light. Corvin walked slowly, cane tapping softly, watching the lanterns sway. Each shadow seemed to tell a story of travelers past, laughter remembered, and quiet moments held in memory. He paused to let the fox explore, kneeling to trace a shadow with his fingers. Though it vanished as soon as he touched it, a warmth remained, like the echo of a soft smile. "This hollow keeps memories alive," he whispered, feeling the gentle hush of the place wrap around him. The hollow opened into a vast meadow where tall grass swayed like liquid gold in the sunlight. Tiny blooms peeked through, their petals sparkling faintly. The fox ran ahead, rolling and chasing the light that bounced off each blade. Corvin followed slowly, letting the warmth of the sun soak into his shoulders and arms. He felt the meadow's rhythm, a slow pulse in tune with his own heartbeat. Each step was a reminder of steady passage, of calm movement, of living fully in the soft unfolding of time. "This is a place to breathe," he murmured, sitting for a moment to watch the wind dance across the field. The meadow sloped gently downward to a stream so clear it mirrored the sky above. Corvin knelt to drink, cupping water that shimmered faintly with reflections of clouds and lanterns alike. The fox pawed at the water's edge, sending ripples that scattered light in playful patterns. Corvin smiled softly, feeling the simple joy of water and wind and light moving together. The stream whispered quietly, carrying the calm of countless days, the memory of travelers, and the promise of gentle rest. He lingered, letting the soft current carry both his thoughts and the weight of the journey's miles away. Past the stream, an orchard spread out, bathed in the warm glow of twilight. Fruit hung low on the branches, amber and ruby, glowing faintly as dusk fell. Corvin wandered slowly between the trees, tasting the soft, sweet fruit and letting the flavors linger. The fox darted among the trunks, occasionally stopping to sniff or chase a falling leaf. The orchard held the quiet magic of endings and beginnings, where day fades softly into night and every moment is held like a jewel. Corvin felt the gentle weight of contentment settle over him, a calm that needed nothing but presence to bloom. The orchard ended at a narrow path, paved with stones that shimmered faintly under the last light of day. Lanterns hovered along the edges, their glow soft and inviting. The fox ran ahead, tail sweeping the air, and Corvin followed, cane tapping in steady rhythm. Each stone beneath his steps seemed to hum with quiet energy, a whisper of the journey past and the calm yet to come. He smiled, letting the fox guide him forward. The path stretched on gently, endlessly, carrying him into the next soft chapter of the world, a place where light, memory, and rest all merged into one gentle, glowing whole. The path curved into a grove shrouded in silver mist. The fog hung low, soft and cool against Corvin's skin. Lanterns floated gently among the trees, their light muted by the haze. The fox padded ahead, tail swishing through the mist, leaving tiny sparkles in its wake. Corvin followed slowly, cane tapping on the soft earth, feeling each step guided by the quiet glow around him. The mist carried faint whispers, almost inaudible, memories of laughter, small joys, and gentle guidance. Corvin breathed deeply, letting the silver haze wrap him in calm, like a quilt of air and light. Beyond the grove, a meadow opened, filled with flowers that shimmered like dew-kissed glass. Each bloom pulsed faintly, casting tiny reflections across the soft grass. The fox darted and leapt among them, stirring lights with playful pawing. Corvin walked slowly, hand brushing petals as he passed, feeling the gentle warmth of their glow. The meadow seemed alive, not with noise, but with quiet attention, the awareness of every small life, every soft breeze, every moment of gentle presence. Corvin smiled, letting the soft shimmer settle into his chest. The meadow ended at a bridge spanning a calm stream. Instead of wood, it was made of floating lanterns, each carrying a soft, golden glow. Corvin stepped carefully, cane tapping lightly. The fox skipped ahead, hopping from lantern to lantern as if it were stepping stones of stars. Below, the water mirrored the lantern's glow, multiplying their light. Corvin realized the bridge was not just a path but a place to pause, to watch, to feel the quiet dance of light and water together. Each step was slow, deliberate, and full of calm, like the heartbeat of the world itself. On the far side of the bridge, Corvin found an orchard bathed in twilight. Lanterns hung from every branch, glowing softly, illuminating apples, pears, and plums that gleamed like tiny gems. The fox explored eagerly, sniffing at the fruit and chasing shadows cast by the lanterns. Corvin wandered among the trees, tasting a small apple, feeling the gentle sweetness fill his senses. The orchard felt timeless, a space where day fades into night, where light and shadow mingle in soft harmony. Corvin felt the calm of evening wrap around him like a warm shawl. The orchard ended at a winding path paved with smooth stones that glimmered faintly under the lantern glow. The fox ran ahead, sending tiny sparks of light flickering across the path. Corvin followed slowly, cane tapping in rhythm with his steps. Each stone seemed to hum quietly, carrying memories of past travelers, gentle guidance, and the quiet pulse of the world. He smiled, letting the path guide him. Each step was a meditation, a lullaby, a small journey in itself. The lantern's soft glow, the fox's calm presence, and the gentle stones beneath his feet made the moment perfect for rest, reflection, and quiet wonder. The path led into a small hollow where lanterns floated freely, spinning gently in the evening breeze. Their glow cast dancing shadows on the mossy ground, warm and soft. The fox pranced among the lanterns, chasing the flickers of light with playful leaps. Corvin walked slowly, cane tapping softly, letting each step echo like a gentle song. He paused to watch the lanterns sway and twist, realizing each movement carried a quiet story, a memory of laughter, a whispered thought, or the calm of someone resting. The hollow felt alive with these gentle energies, cradling him in its quiet glow. Beyond the hollow, the path opened into a vast meadow where tall grasses shimmered with silver light. Each stalk swayed softly, catching the moon's glow and reflecting it like a gentle tide. The fox darted and rolled among the grasses, leaving trails of sparkling light behind. Corvin moved slowly, hand brushing the tops of the silvery blades, feeling their soft touch and the calm pulse of the meadow. He breathed deeply, letting the rhythmic sway of the grasses mirror his own heartbeat. Every step through the meadow felt like a meditation, each gentle sway a lullaby carried by the wind. The meadow sloped down to a narrow stream, its waters clear and still, reflecting stars, lanterns, and the surrounding trees. Corvin knelt and cupped the water, feeling its cool calm seep into his hands and arms. The fox pawed playfully at the surface, sending ripples that scattered reflections in shimmering arcs. Corvin smiled softly, letting the quiet music of water, light, and motion settle over him. The stream whispered in gentle tones, carrying memories and soft guidance alike. He lingered there for a while, letting the world's calm wash over him, each breath measured and slow. Past the stream, Corvin discovered another orchard, bathed in the warm glow of golden twilight. Lanterns hung from the branches, their light soft and steady, illuminating fruit that glimmered faintly like small suns. The fox explored eagerly, sniffing at fallen leaves and rolling in patches of soft grass. Corvin wandered slowly among the trees, tasting a small piece of fruit, letting its sweetness linger on his tongue. The orchard seemed timeless, a place where day and night coexisted in gentle harmony. Corvin felt the quiet reassurance of the world, that every journey, however long, carries moments of calm, light, and gentle reflection. The orchard ended at a narrow path paved with smooth stones that glimmered faintly under the lantern's glow. The fox bounded ahead, tail brushing against the air, and Corvin followed slowly, cane tapping a steady rhythm. Each stone beneath his steps seemed to hum quietly, carrying a sense of continuity, calm, and gentle guidance. He smiled, feeling the journey's soft heartbeat beneath his feet. The lanterns, the fox, the quiet air, and the gentle stones all combined into a single, steady rhythm, a lullaby for travelers, a quiet promise that every step, no matter how small, is part of a luminous, unfolding story. The path led into a forest where tiny lanterns hung from every branch, swaying gently with the breeze. The light was soft, golden, and ever-changing, like sunlight through a gentle mist. The fox padded ahead, weaving between the trees, chasing the flickering lights. Corvin followed slowly, cane tapping softly against the mossy earth. Each step seemed to echo the calm rhythm of the forest itself. The trees whispered quietly, as if sharing old stories with travelers who would listen. Corvin tilted his head, letting the soft sounds wrap around him like a shawl. Every flicker of light, every murmur, felt like a small lullaby meant only for those who took the time to notice. Beyond the forest, a meadow stretched wide, blanketed in tall grasses and dotted with flowers heavy with dew. Each drop reflected the lantern's glow, creating a landscape of tiny floating lights. The fox pranced eagerly, sending ripples through the grasses and scattering the reflected dew. Corvin walked slowly, hands brushing the cool tops of the stalks, feeling the gentle chill of early evening dew. He paused to watch the tiny lights dance and shimmer, thinking that the world held more quiet beauty than one could ever notice in a single lifetime. The meadow whispered a soft lesson: notice. Pause. Breathe. The meadow led to a bridge spanning a narrow stream, constructed of silver threads that shimmered like gossamer in the moonlight. Each step made a faint ringing, soft as wind through chimes. The fox leapt lightly ahead, testing each thread, while Corvin stepped carefully, feeling the gentle hum beneath his feet. The water below reflected every flicker of light, multiplying it in soft arcs across the forest. The bridge was not only a crossing but a meditation, a moment to notice each heartbeat, each sound, each gentle flicker of light. Corvin let the quiet guide him, savoring every step as if it were its own small journey. On the far side of the bridge, an orchard appeared, bathed in a soft amber glow. Lanterns hung from the branches, casting pools of gentle light over ripe fruit. The fox explored eagerly, sniffing at the ground and chasing shadows that danced in the lantern glow. Corvin wandered slowly, picking a small pear and tasting its warm sweetness. The orchard felt eternal, a quiet reminder of patience, growth, and calm. Corvin understood that this journey, long and gentle, was filled with these small, quiet treasures, moments of sweetness, soft light, and restful pause. The orchard ended at a path paved with small pebbles that glimmered faintly, each one carrying a soft inner light. The fox ran ahead, sending tiny sparks flickering along the path, while Corvin followed, cane tapping in steady rhythm. Each step felt like a small meditation, the glowing stones illuminating his journey with gentle, unhurried light. He smiled, letting the rhythm of his steps, the fox's playful energy, and the lantern-lit path fill him with calm. The world felt steady, warm, and endlessly kind, a gentle lullaby unfolding one step at a time. The path led into a grove shrouded in amber mist. Lanterns hung from every branch, their glow diffused softly through the haze. The air was warm and scented faintly of wildflowers. The fox padded ahead, leaving tiny glowing footprints in the mist. Corvin followed slowly, cane tapping on soft moss, each step steady and deliberate. The amber mist seemed alive, wrapping him in calm and quiet, carrying whispers of forgotten moments, gentle laughter, a soft sigh, the warmth of being fully present. Corvin paused to breathe deeply, letting the grove's quiet embrace settle over him. Beyond the grove, a meadow stretched wide, its ground carpeted with petals that shimmered faintly in the soft light. They drifted lazily with the breeze, floating like tiny lanterns on the air. The fox pranced and rolled among the petals, sending them scattering like sparks of gold and silver. Corvin walked slowly, letting the gentle movement of the petals calm his thoughts. The meadow seemed to hum softly, a lullaby of color, light, and air. He realized that every drifting petal was a small reminder. Life unfolds gently, moment by moment, and each moment is a gift to be noticed and savored. The meadow ended at a bridge suspended over a quiet river. The bridge seemed woven from mist itself, with tiny lights drifting in its curves like stars caught in fog. The fox leapt lightly ahead, paws skimming the misted glow. Corvin followed carefully, each step ringing softly, like a chime in the quiet night. The bridge was a pause between places, a moment to notice the beauty of crossing, of movement without hurry. Each step made him feel lighter, as if the soft glow beneath him carried away the weight of long travels and tired muscles. On the far side of the bridge, an orchard spread, each tree adorned with soft lanterns glowing warmly among ripe fruit. The air was sweet with scent, and the leaves rustled quietly in a gentle breeze. The fox sniffed at fallen apples, then curled under a low branch for a brief rest. Corvin wandered slowly, tasting a small fruit and letting its sweetness linger. The orchard felt timeless, a place where light, scent, and calm coexisted. He understood that the journey itself, filled with these small, quiet delights, was a source of gentle wonder and peace. The orchard ended at a winding path paved with glowing stones, each faintly illuminated from within. Lanterns hovered along the edges, casting gentle light on the smooth path. The fox bounded ahead, tail brushing the air, while Corvin followed, cane tapping in steady rhythm. Each step seemed to hum quietly, a lullaby of motion, light, and gentle awareness. He smiled, letting the soft glow, the playful fox, and the warm path fill him with calm. Each step was a meditation, each lantern a quiet reminder that the world was patient, kind, and endlessly gentle. The path led into a hollow where golden lanterns floated at varying heights, casting a warm glow on the soft earth. The fox pranced among them, sending shadows dancing across the mossy floor. Corvin moved slowly, cane tapping softly. Each step echoed faintly, blending with the gentle hum of the lanterns. The hollow seemed alive with memories and quiet laughter, welcoming travelers to pause and rest. He knelt to touch a lantern, feeling its warmth spread through his palms. The glow wrapped around him like a hug, a gentle reminder that even in quiet solitude, the world carries light and companionship. Beyond the hollow, a wide meadow opened, covered in grass shimmering with silver dew. Each blade reflected the soft glow of lanterns scattered throughout the field. The fox darted through the meadow, leaving trails of moving light behind. Corvin walked slowly, hand brushing against the cool, wet grass, savoring the gentle sensation. The meadow seemed to pulse softly, in rhythm with his own heartbeat. Every step reminded him of the simple joys of presence, the quiet rustle of grass, the faint glimmer of dew, the steady rhythm of life unfolding. At the meadow's edge, a narrow stream flowed, dotted with smooth stones that glimmered faintly beneath the water. Corvin knelt to touch the cool surface, letting the gentle current lap at his fingers. The fox pawed at the stones, sending ripples across the water that reflected the soft lantern glow. Corvin watched the patterns swirl and shimmer, each ripple carrying whispers of calm, old stories, and gentle guidance. He realized the stream was a mirror for both the journey and the self, offering quiet reflection in its gentle motion. The soft sound of water became a lullaby for the soul, steady and soothing. Across the stream lay another orchard, bathed in starlight. Lanterns hung among the branches, and the fruit glimmered softly, as if absorbing the light of the sky above. The fox explored eagerly, sniffing at the grass and chasing shadows cast by the lanterns. Corvin wandered slowly among the trees, tasting a small apple and savoring the calm sweetness. The orchard seemed eternal, a space where night, light, and gentle motion coexisted. Corvin felt the quiet contentment of being present, letting the orchard's still magic fill his senses with peace. The orchard ended at a winding path lined with softly glowing lanterns. Each step on the smooth stones beneath his feet made a gentle, steady sound. The fox bounded ahead, brushing past the light, while Corvin followed, cane tapping a calm rhythm. Each step felt like a meditation, a small act of attention, a quiet note in a lullaby of gentle motion. He smiled, feeling the journey's quiet heartbeat beneath his feet. The lanterns, the fox, the softly glowing path, all combined into a serene, endless rhythm that promised rest, reflection, and comfort for every traveler. The path led into a grove where shadows danced softly under the lantern's glow. The fox padded lightly ahead, tail brushing the ground, sending tiny sparks of light across the mossy floor. Corvin followed slowly, cane tapping softly, feeling the hush of the grove settle over him. Each shadow seemed alive, moving like a quiet dance to welcome travelers, carrying whispers of calm and memory. He paused to breathe deeply, letting the grove's gentle rhythm wrap him in serenity. Here, every sound, every flicker of light, became part of a quiet lullaby that eased the mind and heart. Beyond the grove, a wide meadow stretched under a twilight sky. Tiny lights floated above the grass, drifting lazily like lanterns caught in a soft breeze. The fox leapt and rolled, pawing at the floating lights, leaving shimmering trails behind. Corvin walked slowly, letting the calm of the meadow settle into his chest. Each floating light seemed to carry a memory, a gentle reminder of kindness, laughter, or quiet joy. Corvin breathed slowly, savoring the sense that every small light, every soft moment, mattered in its own quiet way. The meadow ended at a bridge spanning a gentle river. The rails were lined with small lanterns casting warm reflections on the water. The fox scampered across first, tail flicking, and Corvin followed carefully, each step echoing softly. Beneath him, the river mirrored the lanterns in the sky, doubling the gentle glow. He paused mid-bridge, leaning on his cane, watching the reflection ripple. The bridge seemed to exist between two worlds, the world he had walked and the world he was entering, both quiet, both full of calm, both filled with soft, guiding light. Across the bridge lay an orchard bathed in the soft glow of twilight. Lanterns hung from branches, illuminating fruit that gleamed like small stars. The fox explored eagerly, sniffing the ground and chasing tiny motes of light, while Corvin wandered slowly, tasting a small apple and feeling the orchard's gentle calm fill him. The orchard seemed timeless, a place where light, shadow, and scent intertwined. Corvin felt the stillness settle over him like a soft quilt, wrapping every step of the journey in quiet contentment. The orchard ended at a narrow path paved with glowing stones. Lanterns hovered along its edges, casting warm, gentle light across the smooth stones. The fox bounded ahead, brushing past the light, while Corvin followed slowly, cane tapping a steady rhythm. Each step seemed to carry the calm of all the journey's moments. The river, the gardens, the bridges, the meadows, and the orchards, all combined into one continuous, gentle lullaby. He smiled, letting the lanterns, the fox, and the quiet path fill him with peace. The world felt endlessly kind, patient, and serene. As he walked, the soft glow and the gentle rhythm of his steps carried him toward rest, reflection, and the comfort of a journey completed. And so, with the fox curled at his feet and the lanterns guiding him, Corvin walked on, wrapped in the warm, unhurried glow of the night, drifting into sleep as the world whispered softly around him.